Now, really what this is about is helping people see the purpose of their job, not just their function. I've had the privilege of working with Disney. At Disney, at the parks, for example, they say no matter what your job function is, your purpose is. Anyone want to guess? At Disney, they say the purpose of your job, if you work in the park, is to do what? Anybody know? Make people happy, to spread happiness. That is your job. Whether you're taking a ticket, selling tickets, whether you're sweeping, cleaning the bathrooms, your job is to spread, your purpose of your job is to spread happiness, though your task of your job may do to be something else. And one of the questions I would ask you is, think about for a minute, what is the purpose of each person who works for you? What is the purpose of their job? And by the way, in the spirit of tight loose, you want to really engage people, get them asking that question themselves. You can answer it for them. I would suggest you tell them the Disney story and then ask them, what do you see as the purpose of your job? Not the task of your job, but the purpose of your job. I'll tell you when I first, and by the way, I think as a leader, this has got to be personal for you. In a few moments, I'm going to ask you to think about what is the higher purpose of your job. Because let me tell you, if you're not connected to the higher purpose of your job, you will not be able to see it for others. Let me tell you when I first realized the impact of seeing the purpose of your job. When I was in graduate school in Chicago, at the University of Chicago, I had to work part-time. I had no golden spoon. I had to work my way through all my years of university. And I had to get a job. I got there in the middle of the year, and there were no internships available. I was studying psychology. I wanted to maybe intern in a hospital or something. No jobs in my field available. The only job I could get was as a clerk in a postal substation, post office substation in a drugstore in one of the poorest neighborhoods in North America on the south side of Chicago. And I have to admit, I did not see the higher purpose of this job. I spent 25 hours a week while I was taking 5 courses, weighing packages and stamping things. And there was a lineup from the moment I got there till the moment I left. There was no break, just person after person doing a package, stamps, and little things start to drive you crazy in a job when you see it as a job. Like people would come in and ask me to write money orders. In those days in the U.S. Post Office, you had to do these money orders, and they were all done by hand like this, and half the time they would rip. So, the line would get bigger while people, and I have to be honest, I came from a middle-class background. I wanted to say to them, get a checking account. There's a bank right next door. I did not see the higher purpose of my job. Within 3 months, I hated the job and I hated the customers. That's as honest as I can be. And then one day, 3 months into my job, it was a rainy day in Chicago, I'll never forget, because the 4th person in line that morning was a small elderly woman, about 85 years old. And I remember it was raining because she was wearing a hat with rims, and it was still dripping on her shoulders as she asked me for a money order. And I was in a good mood. It was the beginning of my day, so as I was going to do the money order, I said, "And how are you today?" And she said, "Well, since you've asked, I'm not doing very well." She said, "To be honest, my daughter is in the hospital, at Billings Hospital. It's about a mile from where we were." She said, "And she has cancer, and she's dying." She said, "In fact," she said, the doctors told me that she may die today or tomorrow. She's going to die any day now." She said, "And I should be there." She said, "For God's sakes, I should be there." She said, "But if I don't pay my rent by 5 o'clock today, they're going to evict me." She said, "And those lousy people who run my apartment building will not let you pay in cash." She said, "And I have no one else in the world to come and get this money order for me but myself." She said, "But I should be there. My daughter is dying." I have to confess to you, I really don't remember much of what I said to her. I do remember for the first time in months of being in that post office, it occurred to me that I could actually make a difference in the life of someone. I was kind, I was as gentle as I could be, but I'll tell you what I will remember the rest of my life. When she was done with me, she walked to the door of the post office or the drugstore and she turned around. I was already interacting with the next customer, and I watched her walk down the aisle, and she came behind the counter and interrupted the customer who was already dealing with me. And she put her shaking, feeble hand on my forearm, and she looked me in the eyes and she said, "Son, I just want to thank you. Thank you for being so kind." You do know, don't you? You made my day. And when I went home that night, I couldn't sleep. I thought for 3 months, I have worked 25 hours in this post office, and I saw my job as licking stamps and weighing packages. How would I have had a different experience if I had seen my job in a different way? When I went in the next afternoon, I wrote on a big piece of paper behind the counter where no one else could see it, only me, make someone's day. I'll never forget the third woman in line the next morning was another elderly woman who came into the post office often. She was wearing a bright, almost orange, pulsing neon dress. And I said to her as she fumbled with her mail, "My, you are beautiful today, especially in that dress." And I'll never forget, she looked around and saw there were only men behind her, and she said, "Oh, stop it. You'll make me blush." But I realized this woman, she was pretty old and pretty frail. She maybe only got out once a week. And she would dress up and put her makeup on, and I wondered if anyone even noticed. And all through those next few weeks, and I didn't have any more people in line with their daughters dying of cancer, though I was ready for it, but I realized in subtle and small ways I could make a difference in the lives of the people who I served. And I think of my own mother now, who is in her 80s, who his health is starting to fail a little bit and doesn't get out very often. And she talks to me about the conversations she has with people in the bank, with whom, for her, it's more than just a transaction. And I want to say to you as a leader, don't be afraid to be inspiring. Don't be afraid to challenge your people to see the higher purpose of the work. And they may even make fun of you. Oh, he or she's always reminding us of the higher purpose, but I guarantee you, it matters.